Space is the connection between center and the infinite. The Spirit is infinite, God is infinite, but we have difficulties in getting in contact with God or with the spirits. And therefore, the question was, how can we do this? Now, what does space mean? Space means that we are centered in the earth, which is to say every person has his center in the earth center. Also, a horoscope has nothing to do with the place where you are on earth, but the horoscope is always viewed from the center of the earth. Now, time is history. Now in physics one says there are as many systems in the universe as histories. And the difference between time and space is time has a beginning and an end. And it has to do with evolution, whereas space is in relation with the infinite. And you know that in the last months it has been discovered that the expansion of the universe continues all the time. There is no idea that there is a contrary movement like it was said about 10 years ago. There's the Big Bang and the Big Crunch. There is no Big Crunch. It simply means that space is extension. Now, time in relation to the infinite means that we have to understand how our personal history of the earth is situated. Actually, you know that there is the expectation that the great theory is just around the corner, the theory which will connect all the physical knowledge. And it's called the Superstring Theory, and everything is based only on space and time in physics now. Now, space and time in the Chinese thinking or in the Asian thinking was always the coordinates of the human beings, because we are not only citizens of the earth, but of the whole of the universe. The same laws which govern our body governs everything in the whole universe. So therefore, with quantum mechanics, with the new physics, all difference has disappeared, which is to say we are no longer centered locally, but we are centered universally, as soon as we realize that we are the members of the organism of the earth. That was called the Gaia Hypothesis, and that was developed in the last years mainly, and it means that only through space and time can we arrive at, let us say, criteria where all cultures can fit in. Which is to say that in science as well as in culture, or as well as in religion, the main thing is that everybody has to get in tune with the infinite. We have moments in our lives which are important, which the Native Americans call omens and agreements, which is to say that suddenly something happens which you see that it is more important for your life than all the planning which you have done. And the main emphasis of the old cultures has been to know how to make these moments more often, more frequent. And for that, ritual was invented. Ritual in Sanskrit means rita, which is to say that which is fixed where we can take a special time and a special space in order to transform our consciousness. If the Earth Day should become a reality, in the sense that really many people take part in this, then in that moment there would be a common milieu for humanity. And that is what should happen, because the globalization is very often considered as a danger, just like technological civilization. But it's no danger, because technology is for the human being as normal as eating and drinking. There's no such thing as a negative result of this, but then when we start the whole business of space and time, we must think on Earth, where we are living, the most essential moment is the Vernal Equinox, because that is also the link between the development of religions according to the great year and the development of the individual. And it's said in the Jewish tradition, the voice of the East is never silent. Everybody can listen to it. Prophet means, in the Jewish tradition, that somebody brings a law to the earth. But prophet means that man should understand his role. So, in this moment of the East Festival, we are able to listen to the voice of revelation. Everybody is able to do that, which is to say it will happen to him, but according to excellence, so to say. It will not be it was just like as Moses was expecting a God after he had appeared in the flaming bush, that he would come with thunder, and he came with einem leichten Säuseln, with this, yes,
slow breathe,
it's like a breath, like a breath or something like this. Now, concentrating on one time moment of the year, which happens to be also the structure of the solar system. And not the solar system, but the Earth in the whole solar system, and our awareness that we are part of this solar system, and that the Earth is the mother of everything. For millions of years, the religion was, that is Mircea Eliade writing or Joseph Campbell writing, was based on the figure of the Earth as the great mother who helps everybody to find his living. And for the moment, there is a real danger of destruction for the whole Earth, which everybody knows ecologically and so on. So only by getting aware to how to touch the spirits, how to touch God, so to say, can we, with the East, remember what our vocation is. In Africa it is said that every human being has a vocation before he has born, and it's the task of the elders of the tribe to find out what that vocation is. The name which is given to the Africans mirrors this. And that is that we had an African shaman last year here, and there was this difficulty that people couldn't find jobs, you know. People are speaking all the time. And the African said, he can't understand this problem because why don't you ask God? Because then you will know it. And ritual is there to remember that God exists. And that if you do not pay any notice to it, and the best day of the year to pay notice of this, to this, is the vernal equinox, because that's the greatest time rhythm in which we are living. A time rhythm, the precession of the equinoxes is 26,000 years about. And so, uniting world history, which is to say, religious history with the small histories of people and so on, will enable us to understand through space and time, and by arriving at a common ritual, as the earthly wants to start in a certain way, to a common basis of understanding. The vernal equinox was always, it's the moment when the sun comes from the southern hemisphere to the northern hemisphere, and that is the beginning of a new time, which is to say a new historical thing, like as we are in the Aquarian age, so to say. The Aquarian age means that the East is no longer in the constellation Aries, but it is the constellation Aquarius. And so, by knowing this this fact that a certain direction of space enables you to a certain realization, but the basis of all realization is to accept that fundamentally space is only acceptable or available when you have a center. Which is to say, when you are centered on Earth, and time is when you accept your history as a way to fulfillment, and not as accidental happenings. And so, in the old religions, the awareness was more important than the learning. Awareness is that in all the cultures which had no writing, there was the initiation into direct experience of the universe. And that is still the religion of 300 million people called the Aborigines all over the world. And for them, the Eastern equinox is one of the points where they remember the whole meaning of life. As it is said in India, there was no time in the Bhagavad Gita where the truth wasn't known, but there are always people who want to hide it. And so sometimes the truth comes anew, because God is reborn every time, in every time, in every age, and one has to know what is the actual age. Now, from the point of view of the vernal equinox, which is to say of the great year, it means that we are, so to say, in the beginning of a period of friendship and peace. It doesn't look like it, but from the point of view of the old religions, like the Dogons, or like the Native Americans, or like the Indians, or the Chinese, this is obvious. And so the thing is that Capra said once, in every time there are two waves. There is an upgoing wave and there's a downgoing wave. And some people like to identify with the downgoing wave, like all these people who believe in an imminent catastrophe in this year, and there are people who belong to the upgoing wave, and Capra says, I prefer to be part of the upgoing wave, which is to say, to understand that the future is something we make through having a space-time pattern. Because whatever exists is space and time. As mathematics was developed out of music by Pythagoras, because music was the only way one could understand through the senses the relation between measure and frequency. So therefore, it would mean that the Earth Day, if it really catches the imagination of people, could serve as a tuning fork, you know, where people can tune in. And that would be the starting of a real peace, because peace is not the absence of war. Peace means that people, it's like friendship. What is a friend? A comrade is somebody with whom you make, let's say, skiing together or things like this. But a friend is somebody whom you like because he is different. And that is the meaning of our age, to be friendly with people. But the term multicultural is not so good, because multicultural, you have to look for common denominators of the world culture. And what is common? The calendar is common and the space directions are common. So these two are in physics and in religion and in everything the basis of understanding, an understanding which goes beyond the, which goes beyond local traditions. Because the ideological religions, like the fundamentalists of all kinds, Christian as well as Islamic or Jewish, they do not believe in the value of space and time, whereas the Aborigines believe in that. It is through physics, because physics is based on the understanding of space and time. Space and time are the only reality which exists. For example, the universe we can only understand through space and time, and our life we can only understand through space and time, living at a certain time and living in a certain place and knowing one's center. So therefore, space and time means that we are in relation to different, let us say, aspects of the spirit and of the God. And there the Celts, the Germanic people, and the Native Americans arrived at that what was called in German the Ting, and which was called in Native America the Circle of Law. For example, in the Battle of the Wounded Knee, the Indian chief said we would never have had that experience if he wouldn't have lost the Circle of Law. And the Circle of Law is nothing else but space and time. Because as the sun makes the year, not the sun itself, but we have the day, the turning of the day and night, and then once we are in tune with day and night, for example, for the Chinese, let us say, the dream body is as important as the waking body, also for the Native Americans, and to unite the left side and the right side, or man and woman, is only possible when we accept that space is the female aspect, which is yin, and that time is the male aspect, which is yang. And these two have to come together. For example, the left side of our body is the yin side, and the right side of our body is the yang side, which is to say our night consciousness is as important as our day consciousness. And it, as modern physics has found out, let us say, the physical basis of consciousness, of awareness. Therefore, it would be possible to attain an understanding which will unite us directly with the ancient Neolithic cultures. In the Pope John the 23rd, or what was it? About, said in the final document of the Congress, of the Second Vatican Congress, now we have already understood the high religions, but we should understand the rays of truth. And the rays of truth are with all the people who were considered primitive and who were subject to colonialism and all that. Therefore, these people understand still the union of man and nature. And if we do not understand it spiritually, and that means also cosmically, then in that case there cannot be peace, because peace would demand that one accepts all histories as given histories, just to see the history in them. But if, for example, the Indians say, one of the greatest dangers is that you still think of bad things which have happened to you, like the Serbs with the Battle of the Amsel Field, or the Jews with the Holocaust and so on, or in a personal life, the terrible things which have happened in your youth and so on. And the Western feast, which is to say, when it is not said that the sun goes under, but the earth comes up, because the earth is covering the sun. So in that moment, you shall leave all negative happenings, all negative history. For the moment people wallow in this, in negative histories, the more negative it is, the greater success it has, so to say. And that would be avoided if one gets to the possibility of the great year, which is to say, of this space-time structure which has been handed down since about 11,000 years. When we were in India, at the date of the beginning of the Aquarian Age, everybody was drumming because people expected that there would be an earthquake. And the Brahmin said, if there is no earthquake, it is because you have paid us enough. And if there is an earthquake, that means that you haven't paid enough, which is a natural, a normal attitude in a way. Well, if we take the Earth in the actual understanding, which is to say from the American point of view, there is the Western Hemisphere, there's the Eastern Hemisphere, there's the Northern and there's the Southern. Now, the Northern Hemisphere consciousness is more important than intuition. Southern Hemisphere is, the Southern Hemisphere means that intuition is more important, or the Earth is more important than all human planning. When I was teaching Africans here in the university, I once asked them, what would you consider the most silly point of the Austrian mentality? And they said it is the idea of a legal marriage. Because how can you have a legal marriage? Either you are together and then it happens, or you are not together. And they were thinking that you have to follow in every moment the universe or the Earth is giving you an insight of what could happen to you. And now we have to make the difference between that which is just accidents, random as they say, and that which is real thing. Now, very many people have become aware to this thanks to a bestseller 2 years ago called the Celestine Prophecies. And in the Celestine Prophecies, the first chapter is you start your life in the moment when you realize that the real things happen through crisis and not through planning. Now, this everybody accepts now, more or less, but the question is how to get in touch with those forces which can give us a direction. Because we lose our direction, we have to have a chart, a grid, so to say. And this grid should explain to us, just like when we look for a landscape, we want to find ourselves. We have to find that chart. That chart exists since thousands of years. And it is the wheel of, it's nothing else but a graphical representation of all criteria of microcosm, microcosm and cosmos, which is to say of the human life and everything else which happens. This has been handed down, and especially through the Tibetans, it has become conscious for many people, because the Tibetans, for the world at large, the loss of the country was a great luck, because therefore suddenly this knowledge became known, which was forgotten completely. And also the Dalai Lama said the same thing when he was last year in Vienna. Finally, we can understand the relation between our religion and the rest of the religions. Somebody asked me, should we all become Buddhists? He made the question, do you want to eat always spinach? And well, he has a great sense of humor. And he has a great, capacity of feeling, and also of, at the same time, to help his country as much as it is possible. It is very difficult for the moment to help them because of the Chinese, but the Chinese spiritually are changing also. The north means Hyperborean from the Greek point of view. It is the place where you are nearest to God, the North Pole. The polar star is for the Chinese as well as for the Greek the entrance to paradise. So when we concentrate on the north, we concentrate on the understanding. Now, the north for the Christian church became the place of the devil, because in the Germanic tradition the north was the sacred place. And now the north, and the north means also all the development of industrialization, of technology and so on. It is in no way negative. It is the basis that all people could have material subsistence. Without globalization, it cannot exist. And so, on the one hand, I'm speaking about the knowledge of the aborigines, which is to say of the ancient people, and at the same time the new developments. The East is, in a way, the place of revelation, and when you are able to open yourself up to the East, you hear in yourself
and renewal.
You hear in yourself what you should possibly do. In order to do that, you have to have a ritual, which is to say, to concentrate on the East. And that was always, all Christian churches were built up to the 17th century according to that system. Now that has been lost, like many things have been lost, but everybody knows it, and it's very easy to refine it again. Now there are these 8 space directions. Yes. And there are the 12 time sequences, which comes from the union of sun and moon, the 12 months. And if we know, the East is the place where we can get revelation. So we should according to this tradition, we get it from behind, not from the front. It comes from the unconscious. We have to make the unconscious conscious. And there, the East will show what is my vocation now for the moment, what is my next step. The West will show what should I give up and where should I persevere. The South is perhaps the most, that's the entrance to the circle, always. It means I have to have trust and innocence. Trust and innocence means that I have to think that people wish me well. Because if I think that they don't wish me well, they will do so. So there it depends on my attitude towards the people, whether there is peace or whether there is harmony or not. And the North is the place where we get the wisdom, and according to the Native Americans, where we get the wisdom of the animals. We are in touch with the animals. Then that is not all. The ancestors are in the 6th direction, it's the southeast. Ancestor is not my family. It is the spiritual family to which I belong. The real family is the people who belong to the same line of work which I do too. And when I first had a lecture from Madame Kübler-Ross, she was saying that you are meeting your family after death. I decided at that moment that I won't die now because I try to avoid my family for most of my life, and I wouldn't like to meet them after death. But that is also in this Celestine prophecies, the 10th prophecy, which is the last one which he has written, Redfield, is that now everybody will start to find his real ancestor. And according to the Chinese, our work for the ancestors is to fulfill their mistakes, what they have not succeeded. That is the real gratitude, and not to admire them like, say, like goose and so on. Because fundamentally, each person has his. After death, he will serve community as an ancestor. The greatest feast in the whole of the Pacific, and that is another direction, that is in the southwest. In the southwest, which in time corresponds to Halloween in the American way, it is the time where you are able to renew the relation to the dead. according to the Africans, all our misfortunes happen because we haven't taken care enough about the dead, of the dead. Dead people are always present. They are just like the ancestors apart, but then there are also the nature spirits. You know perhaps that Paracelsus said that the human being has to be centered on the elementals, on the astrology, on the astral people, on God himself, and at the same time he has to know from where he gets help. We have to experience when we have had help from somebody, from what kind of people, in what kind of let us say, circumstances, and that is the southwest. So therefore, these fundamental directions show us the way, as they call it, to the powers. The powers are there to help us. Nowadays, I mean, nearly everybody has taken part in some kind of workshop of Feng Shui or whatever it is, of understanding these things, of getting in tune with the animals, getting in tune with the trees and the plants, but there is still no education in the sense of, let us say, culture, which will enable us to understand all these things on one level. As I...
Northwest, the northwest and the northeast.
And the northwest is that each of us has a direct contact with God through his angel. Angel means message. It means that which is meant only for me. And what else?
Northeast. Northeast, you are in.
Northeast is that if I take part in some kind of work, artistic or otherwise, I need inspiration. And that is the last of the directions. If I want to have inspiration, I should turn to the northeast. So these are the 8 directions. The 12 signs of the Zodiac are very well known. It's no need to cite them because there the astrological tradition is still quite present. But the space directions are very important, and if we have one of these 8 feasts, then people are standing in the direction which is necessary for them at this moment. Somebody, for example, somebody who has no hope, he will be in the east. Somebody who bears grudges all the time, he will stand in the west. Somebody who thinks that everybody wishes him ill, he will stand in the south. This is the oldest open structure. It was in the forest, and it is the people who had followed the same sequence that we do are the Celts. The Celtic feasts and the 8 feasts we make here in Vienna are fundamentally identical.
The relation between Earth and the universe is very beautifully manifested through a ritual which came from Peru, from a friend who did it with us, where you went in a spiral, you went from outside into the center, anti-clockwise, giving away step by step everything, what you didn't need. Then you stood at the end, you stood with your back to the west, and you realized it was this little death. It was giving away everything. Then you turned to the east to be new, reborn, and you came clockwise out, step by step, trying to be a new person and to trust the sun also, because it is also, And everybody else was singing and drumming to help those who went in. There was always only one person going in and out, and they were singing Om Ahum, Om Ahum. And this means earth, universe, earth, universe. And it also means seemingly head. Oma is also the head and the earth. Head, universe, head, universe, earth, universe. And sometimes those who got tired singing Oma Hum, they sang it in German, Erde all, Erde all, Oma Hum, and they were dancing also in the circle outside. And it was a beautiful ritual, which we did also once in the evening in Greece, where there were many seminars with the fires around, and some of our friends really felt that it was really a renewal for them. But things like this are old, and also somebody in the anthroposophic school did something very similar with the children, with a little candle, going in and going out, and we must say that our African friend said that in his village, and it is one of the very few villages which is still, I suppose, as it was, people spend a lot of time doing rituals, talking about rituals, recovering from rituals, and thinking of the next rituals. Well, one can also invent one's rituals, the new rituals in the Aquarian age. People have surely invented them already.
And he said also that ritual is always there to remind people of their vocation if they lose it. And that has nothing to do with ceremony. For example, a church has ceremonies, and that is a story. And there's no story behind this, it's just human problems.
Ritual is an actualization of our relation to the universe and to each other.
So we have 8 rituals, because ritual unites all the people who wish to become humans, as we say. We try to be, as the world is one, it is one kind of human being. And whether somebody is a Chinese or an African, he tries just to be a human of this earth. And so these rituals are for all of us. The ritual in the East, Arnold has explained that it's the ritual of renewal and revelation. The ritual of every 6 weeks there is a ritual, as there are 8 in the year, of the Northeast, is the understanding of nature, of the feminine, because it is on 15 degrees of Taurus. And to Taurus belongs also the Venus. It's the festival of beauty, of nature, of the feminine side. The Christians also have made it the month of Mary. And the ritual of the North is the longest day, isn't it so? Yeah. The ritual of understanding.
Summer solstice.
Summer solstice, people jump over the fire, they enjoy the light, the fire, and the wisdom and the understanding. Then comes the ritual of the Northwest, which is the ritual of being friends of God, trying to be friends to each other, because God is not our master in this age of Aquarius, but the friend of the human being, and the human being has to try to be friend of God and friend to each other. And this is also where we get help of the cosmic helpers and the angels, because we have helpers of the cosmos and helpers of the earth spirits. So this is a very important ritual where only people who really try to become friends of God, to become humans, who realize that we are not real humans yet, we are nice persons perhaps, or disagreeable persons, but we try to become a human of this planet. Then comes the festival of the West, where we try to give away all we don't need and to affirm what is really important to us, and where we also start a new community with all the people who are close to us. Maybe a new partnership sometimes, or to renew our partnership. Then comes the festival of the Southwest, which is sometimes in November, I think, yeah. It is for us, it is on 15 degrees of Scorpio, where we get in touch with the invisible helpers of the earth, which in the fairy tales are called dwarfs, who help us with intelligence or practical things, trolls, who help us to find our right Lebensunterhalt, how do you say that?
Subsistence.
Our survival, to help us to survive, of the fairies who give us, they are the spirits, you can call them fairies, who give us courage to do something, to wish something, and the elves who give us alegria, joy, who make the life a festival. So we need these four earth spirits, the intelligence, the practical basis, the courage, and the joy of life. And this is a very beautiful festival, because people have forgotten these earth helpers, because they think, I can do by myself. So I think it's a nice idea if you say, I didn't have the success just by myself, but I was helped of all these earth helpers. Then we have the festival of the South, and this is trust and innocence. But there it is for the Christians Christmas. Something is born in us. The new child, a child is born, because the child really has trust and innocence. So we must become children in this festival and start new. There are some songs also, a German song, Es ist ein Reis entsprungen, something new, but it's a new light that comes to us, because from this day the sun is crescent. Then we have this Festival of Southeast, where we where we link to the ancestors, where we become a link in the golden chain, maybe, of those who have done something for the earth, who have done something for understanding for the other people, for the spiritual development of humanity. This is, and each time in these festivals we give away the old, we renew ourselves in another way. But the main festival is the East, the main festival of renewal, and there it is like in yoga we make a Surya Namaskar, the prayer to the sun, and when we stand there, facing, in this case, with this prayer, the East, we say, I am ready to renew myself through the light, like the whole earth renews itself through the light, and through the cosmic light, which is the inspiration. So, these rituals bring us together, then we dance afterwards, we say hello, we eat, and they drum, and it is a very beautiful thing. But it is something, it is a spiral of development. And the human beings need, the circle is always a spiral, and so the circle, with the help of the renewing power out of space, becomes, the circle becomes a spiral of our renewal.